is His Royal Majesty King A.J. Turner. I am the Obanibe of Opume, a community in Ogbia local government, a second-class stool. I am also born one of Oloibiri Kingdom, a first-class stool. Oloibiri is, as you know, where oil was first discovered in Nigeria, and it's made up of 16 communities. In Bayelsa State. Well, growing up, I have a very peculiar history because my parents are from a very poor background. It may look derogatory if I say they were the wretched of the earth. Farmers. They lived in their farms, as it were. My father could speak Pidgin English. My mother did not even understand Pidgin English. We were born virtually in the forest, I would say. And I grew up with them, got to a point, they left me, they died. The two of them died the same day, in 1971, during an outbreak of an epidemic, cholera. Before then, because my mother, most of the children she had were just dying in their numbers. I didn't know exactly how many, but they couldn't have been less than 7 or 8 of them. Out of them, I think only 3 of us survived. So it's a very checkered history, a history where we would say because agriculture was our mainstay. So if you can work hard in the farm, at least you have something to eat. But you may not live a standard life. I couldn't have imagined myself, live in a blockhouse. And my parents never had one until they died. So you can see that I'm from a very poor background. In those days, the missions were in charge of primary schools. Today, they will give you primary 6. The next day, they will say, oh, they have reduced the classes to primary 4, and maybe because the school, they couldn't really meet up with their classes or school, the class fees, Abi. So in my village too, the school was cut to reduce to primary primary 4. No, from primary 4, I went to that place, and then we were schooling there when the war broke out. So when we all went home, and then we were down at the war front until the war was not over. The war was not over. When they now liberated the area, liberated Nimbi, then from Nimbi, they also liberated Okruba. From Okoroba, they launched to my village and then moved there to liberate Oloibiri and all that. So when we came back from, what I would call it, the war front, schools were reopened, and then I couldn't go back to Utekeme again. We now went to Oloibiri. Getting to Oloibiri, in fact, I even went very late. I was repeating primary 4 even because I had no money to even go, and my parents didn't know. They couldn't get someone that was ready to accept to live with me. So somehow there were some free rooms in the teachers' quarters. So some of our town's boys were able to get someone. So I had to go and live with one of them to now do. So that period, it was just for a brief period of about 3 months for us to write the first school leaving certificate. Jonathan and myself met in primary school at St. Michael's Primary School in Oloibiri. He was in primary 5. I never knew him. I schooled at Utekeme, and then Utekeme and Utabage, they had a common primary school. They call it Central Primary School. Then, of course, many people were given all the names of the Ogbia communities. So then Utabage was called Akalabage. Utekeme was called Ogidama. So that primary school belonged to the 2 communities. So that was where I was in school. In fact, the day Obigbomikimiki bombed the shell location at location 1 there, we were in school when we started seeing smoke and everything, and then the story now came that, Obigbomikimiki or somebody had bombed that place. Children, we took the risk. We left school and then we ran home. Children who had their parents in townships were crying. Me, my parents were in the bush, so I had no reason to cry. But we were brave without knowing whether we could die. We didn't even know that the oil could easily catch fire and spread. We decided to go and see what was happening at that location 1 where Obigbomikimiki came to bomb. But when we went and we saw the fire, no person asked us to start running back. That was how we came back. And then we had no option than to start looking for how to go back to wherever our parents, of course, our parents were in the plantations. So we now left. We all had to go home. And the war, of course, broke out. And Jonathan, his own experience up to that point would be different. And to compound it all is the fact that I became an orphan because my parents left me. They died immediately I finished primary school. And because they couldn't have money to send me to secondary school, they handed me over to a pastor or a reverend who came from Lagos to preach the gospel in the village. They came for me, the husband and wife. They are all gone now. Because they wanted a house help. Of course, my mother was used to that, but she felt that maybe her spirit was killing her children. So they willingly handed me over to them. In fact, they did that up to 3 times. So I lived with different persons. So I was with them. Then when the Reverend was to leave for Port Harcourt in 1970, because I finished primary school in 1968, but because there was no person to train me, so I was just living with them. The only thing I knew was going to church. And but when in 1970 he took a decision to go to Port Harcourt, he lived in Lagos. and then later left his job. He was working with BP then, British Petroleum. He was told, I mean, the story he told me, or told us, was that he saw a vision where God commanded him to leave his job and go home to spread the gospel. That was why he left Lagos, resigned from his job, then came home. So I think maybe God sent him, because I couldn't have had the opportunity of going to Port Harcourt. So he took me to Port Harcourt as a house help. And then, of course, he didn't have money himself to send me to school. So I was just living. He was baking bread, so we were in the bakery helping. And of course, in 1971, like I said, my mother and my father died. So life changed. Life changed because when they were alive, good or bad, poor as they were, they once in a while remembered me. They could send a few things. Sometimes my mother would go to a box and bring up a towel that she kept in her box. She would feel that I may need a towel, or sometimes a wrapper I used to cover myself. So that was the situation until the urge to go to school became so strong in my mind that I couldn't afford to just be going to church. The work we were doing was to go to church, come back late in the night. The following day, we were trekking again from Obaziolu, number 24 Obaziolu, to number 12 Lagos Street, for those of you who know Port Harcourt, to attend church. When those days Reverend A. Alalibo was reigning, he wrote a book called Vote for Jesus. So every person wanted to read that book and know the marvelous work of Jesus Christ. So as children, we had all those ideas in our brains. Wednesdays we go for midweek service, then Sundays we go for Sunday service. So I had an urge to go to school. And for me to go to school, I had to take a decision to stop the life I found myself of only going to church and going to church, come back, pray and go to church like that. Because I had to go change my life to live an independent life such that I could go looking for other things to do to make sure I go to school. So I left. I had an opportunity, not that I left like that. A cousin of mine was to go for training in Lagos. He was working with ECN in those days. So he came to my elder brother, to say he should go, whether there was the possibility that I could come and take care of his room, because he was going to Lagos for training. It would take about 9 months. So that at least somebody should be living in the house. Thieves may not be able to come because someone was living there. So I took that offer. My elder brother told me, I said, yes, I'll go and live. So I had to leave the man I was living with. I didn't mind whether I was going to get something to eat living alone. It was number 38 Abakaliki in Port Harcourt. My elder brother was living at number 11 in Ewe, so I could trek to his place sometimes to eat. And at some point, I didn't find it necessary even going to bother him again. I would run around, and then sometimes with friends, So it's a very long story, But I finally had an urge to look for something to do when I felt I should go and learn typewriting, because that was the cheapest thing I could do. And there was this part-time program you could go to, you could enroll. So from that 38 Abakaliki, there was one Gera Commercial Institute that was offering part-time programs that enabled people like us to go and learn typewriting. So I went there. I didn't have the money to pay. I went back to plead with the man I had lived with, and they managed to pay the first 1 month, and I started learning typewriting. So I was there till it got to a point that the part-time school that I registered was closed down again. They termed it an illegal school. When government came and clamped down on all mission schools and converted all of them to government secondary schools, names changed and all that. Only very few, like Baptists, Comprehensive, Stella Maris, were left. Most of the other private schools, their names were changed to government secondary school, and even the newly established ones were changed to government secondary school. So what they did was, especially these, most of the private commercial schools, government clamped down on them, closed all of them down, and we were thrown out to just thrown out, no schools to attend anymore, because the secondary schools that government took over were not enough to accommodate everyone. So I decided to go around all the schools that were closed down to speak to students. We started gathering at the primary school at Ikotekpene, on Ikotekpene Street. We made that our venue for meetings. Started holding meetings until we decided to go to the Ministry of Education to protest that they can't just throw us out without a school. They must do something to open a school for us. Chief Melfodokilo was then the Commissioner of Education, and I became the spokesman of the students. So we went there more than 3-4 times, closing down the Ministry of Education. They won't work until they open a school, for us. At some point, I remembered when the DPO at Diop even came and spoke to us, eventually invited us to my one police station, and they invited Chief Melfodokilo to come and address us there. And after, some of those outtakes, they now opened a school for us. We had to attend that school in the afternoon because there was no school, no compound, no buildings anywhere to put us. So we went. We used to go to Baha Memorial Primary School on Agri Road. When the school closed at 2, we will start our own school until about 9-10 p.m. I was going from Diop. There was no money for transport, so most of the time we had some of our friends who didn't have, whose background was as poor as myself. We trek. We were almost like forming an association. Trek down to Diop, and then the following day, afternoon again, we repeat the same thing until we had the first second semester exams there. Then the Chief Medford Okilo was moved to Petroleum Resources in the governor's office as commissioner. Obiwali was now appointed or posted there as the new commissioner. And within that period, Obiwali came. It didn't take long. He now was able to find a place in Eba and opened a school for us. That was how I managed to go to school. Luckily for us in those days, scholarship was available. If you are doing well, and for secondary schools, where partiality wasn't as much as we observe today. So they made us write the first term exam, or second term exam, final exam. And they used strictly the results to recommend us for scholarship, and we were strictly given scholarship based on our performance. So I happened to be lucky. That first year, I came second in class. But something happened. Results came, scholarship results came. The person who came first had scholarship. I was not given scholarship. The third person was given scholarship. The fourth person was given scholarship. The fifth person was given scholarship. Up to the sixth person was given scholarship. But they skipped my name. So I complained to my elder brother, who went to the Ministry of Education to check the master lists. And they checked and checked through the whole. Of course, you go first of all to your school, and my name was not there at all. So they now took pains with someone that was working there from Ogbia to helping him. They checked all through until they observed that my name came under Government Girls Secondary School, Harbour Road. So we were advised to go and meet the school principal there, who now decided to give me a letter. And looking through the list again, she now stumbled at a name that was strange to her. She asked if I knew that name. I looked at the name, and it was my wife's name. So I said, yes, I know her. She's my student. So she now added her name to the letter she gave to me, and I took it to my school and informed my wife. We were not married, though. We were not married. We were not girlfriend and boyfriend then. Not that thing even brought us together. But at least we knew ourselves more closely from that point. That's how my name was transferred, and I was now lucky to have been given scholarship. So the hope of finishing my secondary school without having a sponsor, became very obvious. After I finished my secondary school, I looked for a job, of course. I didn't know anybody, so myself and one of my friends who was very, very close to me, George Fay from Ugoni in River State, was one-time secretary to government in River State, one-time finance commissioner too. We wrote our applications, and then we started distributing starting from, is that John Holt, that UTC junction, from UTC down, then got to the secretariat and distributed as many applications as possible. We went home without knowing anybody, and then later We were invited to go for an interview in audit department. Went for interview. We passed. Started work as an audit clerk. So I would say I worked for about a year, and then I had the opportunity of gaining admission to the University of Port Harcourt. So I was not even qualified for study without pay, but I was lucky. My bosses, loved me so much. They assisted us, assisted Faye, assisted myself, and they were able to recommend us for, instead of the mandatory 2 years, they waived it and then gave us study leave without pay. So I went to Uniport. I was doing my final year, but this thing happened when we were in second year or so, or third year. So when we finished, I had written my West African School Certificate exam, and then one Christmas, we went home. I went to Nimbe, and then we met there. So maybe a different spirit now entered us. Because the number of years we were in school, holidays, she would go to her mother. Me too, I would go my own way. There was no... But when we eventually met at home, we became boyfriend and girlfriend. Until one day, the mother just invited me and said, I've seen that you have been relating with my daughter for some time. Please, Then I had started schooling in Uniport. She was yet to get a job, and we have lived together, produced as many as 7 children. I was telling my wife a few months ago that if it were today, I wouldn't have had more than 2. All these other ones wouldn't have been born, because it's not easy taking care of them. And I thank God at least almost all of them, the least had a master's degree, and they are not doing badly. Then in Uniport, when I gained admission, it was second year that I got to know Jonathan. Himself, because I didn't school back home. If I had attended secondary school at home, they would have known me. So a few days ago, he was, on my birthday, he was narrating this experience, how we met. It was himself and one Nadias, this Vice Chancellor Utoke, the elder brother, told him that there's one young man, they called my name, from Ogbea. So there were about 3 of them discussing me. None of them knew me. So they said, how can an Ogbea, that was even second year, in this university, and we don't know him. So they decided to go combing all the rooms. So eventually someone took them to me, and they said, are you the turner? I said, it's myself. So that was how we met, and we became friends till today. We graduated in 1981, did youth service together again in the same state. He was in faraway a place called Iresi in Oshun area. Your president's village is close to it. The president's village they call it Ajawa. Then me, I was staying close to Bomosho, one village called Ajawa. nearer to Ibadan, which was the headquarters of the capital of Oyo State then. Oyo was bigger. Even though that Osun was still part of Oyo. Did my youth service, resumed, then waited for about a year for upgrading and conversion to administrative cadre. Then my first posting was to Minister of Works. I was a Minister of Works for a reasonable period. I didn't know why I was there, but maybe because God did something very wonderful, because on grade level 08, the assignments I was given were just too much for me. There were assignments that should have been given to people who had worked for 10, 15 years, because I was just on level 8 after my conversion. And you won't believe it, that I was given very high responsibilities. That Waterlines house you see, I don't know whether you still call it Waterlines house. That was a house built for the then Transport Corporation. I think there was also a twin building, same place, occupied by, can't remember is it tourism or so? So I was posted, then Levy Breed was commissioner, and then Buhari took over government, drove all the Ukilo them and all that away. So during that period, having repealed the law establishing the Transport Corporation, they now posted me to go and take over the management of the defunct Transport Corporation. I became the joint liquidator with the permanent secretary to take over the assets and liabilities of that building. So I was instrumental. I was instrumental to releasing that place as an office. Can't remember the name of that company again, but Petrochemicals, yes. So I handed over all the furniture and all that, all the inventory, everything. So, and the buses in those days, even when school to land came during Oyakhilome period, all the buses were deployed to assist the school to land program. I was in charge, just on level 08. So when the military even struck, when they came, and my office used to be as big as this. When they see me on my table, they didn't believe that I was the boss. The soldiers will come. At that time, they were looking for people they felt stole government money to intimidate and all that. But seeing me, I was just too young for them to even suspect that I was anything or I had money. So that was before eventually I now was moved to other places and grew in the civil service till finally Bayelsa State was created. I came here. I became one of the most senior administrative officers. Wasn't a PAMSEC then, but I was given very sensitive responsibilities to handle. And I did that till before I was promoted. Over time, became a permanent secretary and served in a number of places. My first place of posting was in the governor's office as a PAMSEC General Services. ET, especially TIET, late, especially demanded that I should be posted to work with him. And then after that, I was posted to Minister of Works and Health. After Works, to health. From health, I was now posted to head the Capital City Development Authority. I was the initial pioneer executive secretary. If any person had told me that I could become a chief, not to talk of becoming a king, I would have said, no, it's not possible. Because I didn't like all these bowler hat and carrying walking stick. And so I was, even as an administrative officer, when, especially these Calabari people, when they come, so proud with, you know, all those type of paraphernalia, wear bowler hat, do this and tie wrapper and posing into your office, I began to wonder whether the man was normal. I couldn't have believed. So something happens. Your activities sometimes lead you to things you don't know. But I was someone that was very, very passionate with how to develop my community. My community had a problem, a dispute that lasted for about 80 years. We didn't have a king for 80 years, 80. And a lot of cases. And I don't know, but God used me at that young age to be in front, to be a unifying factor, and started a process of seeing how peace could return to that community. That story is going to be too long, but I can only say that I was like the, I don't know how to put it. I was, God used me as an arrowhead to ensure that peace returns to the community. And because of the role I played from Port Harcourt, you know, then, well, as a young admin officer, I was lucky. One of the one of the earliest person to have had a car, you know, attached to his office. In the process, and then my commissioners, my permanent secretaries, there was this special favor that they so loved me. As one is being posted out, that one would recommend me to the next person coming. And at some point, any new commissioner or new permanent secretary coming, others will tell them, if you are to succeed in that ministry, this is the person that will help you succeed. You know, so I had that that favor. And in 2007, because of all these peace activities that I was involved in, the community now went through a process, and they decided that they must, having come together, the community was able to unite, and having come together, they needed to now get someone as the king. We had written a constitution. So then I was Executive Secretary, Capital City Development Authority. So they went through a very long process, and that process, I think maybe the way God wanted it, it wasn't even an election. We have 3 compounds in my community. In the constitution, they decided that we should do what they call casting of lots, where they decided that they should pick a virgin and put the names of the 3 compounds and put in so like a lucky dip, put in a bag, and then bring a little girl that's very little girl who is a virgin to pick 3 of them. So they brought these girls, wrote the 3 compounds and put them in a bag, of course. And then these 3 girls were now made to pick. The one from my compound was even naked when they picked her. So they now gave her something to wear. And that thing they gave her to wear was even a male child cloth. And they just made sure they covered her, you know. And they picked, and the thing fell on my compound to produce the king. When that happened, the other 2 compounds, who were now, because they were now the compound was now to produce 3 people to give to the entire community to vote. The other 2 compounds started sending messages that those 3 names, with whatever method they want to use, if it doesn't include my name, they were not going to accept it. You know, so, and of course that kind of thing, the signal is such that anyhow you do it, if it is not me, maybe they will make trouble or whatever. No person knew, but well, it wasn't my business, but they had to follow the process. So there was pressure on the other 2 persons who showed interest. One of them happens to be my cousin, even. He was the one that he refused to step down. Then the other person stepped down. He refused to step down till that day. He was booed out of the. I was not there. I didn't show up at all. But this house was a bungalow. I was in this house when that man who persisted because of the pressure from the community, and the other 2 compounds were so angry with him, and he happens to be partly from my family too. They spoke to him. He was not happy. But finally, the pressure was too much for him, so he still got to the arena where the election was taking place and decided to take the microphone to announce his withdrawal. But it was shamed out of the community. Eventually, after he finished speaking to the people, he left. Back to Inagua. He was not ready to remain there to see the instance. So at that stage, I was here when people came in their numbers, vehicles, and they came to take me from here home for choking. That's how I became king. God has been very kind to all of us, especially in this part of the world. The people of this generation should know that human beings had been in existence so many years, and there's no person who was born on a particular day and was able to grow up to old age that does not have a story to tell. You have a story to tell. You should be able to enlighten the younger ones about a lot of things and life generally. There's no way in my own experience and for the years I have lived on earth, that I have seen where crime, for instance, crime could help you or pay or make you whatever you want to be. Whatever God has given to us, we should use those virtues to help in building our society so that we can also compete with other societies, and make life a bit more meaningful.